Well, this is my first QSC, and I'm super excited. I'm going to be talking about VMDR. And I'm the guy that also stands between you and lunch. But I'm going to make it worth it. I'm going to be giving away free stuff for each one of you that stays on until the end of my presentation and the demos that I have. I promise that. And it's not the Teddy. Which one? So Sumesh and Shailesh talked about the enterprise TrueRisk platform and how it helps you to de-risk your business by measuring, communicating, and eliminating risk. And I'm sure you all are wondering, how does this map to VMDR? But let's keep it a little interactive first. How many of you here know and use VMDR? By show of hands. I think I asked the wrong question. How many of you here don't know VMDR? Okay, so all of you know VMDR. That's great. On my recent visit to a CISO's office, I saw this on his wall. You can't secure what you can't manage. You can't manage what you can't measure. And you can't measure what you can't see. Now at Qualys, we have this unique opportunity to see, measure, and secure a lot of assets, a lot of vulnerabilities, a lot of data. And based on our 2023 TrueRisk research report, we found that our mean time to remediation is around 30 days. But the time to weaponize vulnerabilities is around 19 days, which really means it's 11 days of an advantage that attackers have over you. And not only that, most of the vulnerabilities are basically not getting remediated. Around 40% of the vulnerabilities are not even getting remediated. And these are those vulnerabilities that could get attacked. So what is NCSC recommending? NCSC is recommending that for external assets, you need to patch these vulnerabilities within 5 days. And for internal assets, you need to patch these within 14 days. And I think that's a good recommendation. If we are able to do that, as you can see, we are also able to make sure that you're always ahead of the attackers. In fact, we've seen that the average time to patch deployment is around 3 days. So if it's taking 3 days to deploy the patch, but 30 days for your MTTR, what are we doing in these 27 days? And I think that the solution here is threefold, as we say. We need to be able to measure accurately. We need to be able to communicate precisely. And we need to be able to eliminate effectively. So let's jump into the first one. Now, the world of vulnerabilities is large. There are around 250,000 vulnerabilities out there. Some of these vulnerabilities are exploitable, are getting exploited. Some of the vulnerabilities are weaponized. Some of the vulnerabilities, according to EPSS, are going to get exploited in the next 30 days. Some of them, according to CISA KV, are already getting exploited. So when you have so many categories of vulnerabilities, how do you really measure risk accurately? And there's the most common system of measuring risk is the CVSS, or the Common Vulnerability Scoring System. So again, by show of hands, how many of you here use CVSS to prioritize vulnerabilities? That's quite a lot of you. The problem with that is that every other vulnerability that CVSS prioritizes is considered a critical and high, as Subed was mentioning. So when everything is important, nothing really is important, right? There's also a new system that was announced in 2019 at Black Hat. It's called EPSS, or Exploit Prediction Scoring System. And the problem with that is that only 2% of CVEs is what EPSS says are exploitable, which is too less. So on one side, you have CVSS that is scoring every other vulnerability as high and critical. On the other side, you have EPSS, which is scoring only 2% of vulnerabilities as high and critical. And I'm not saying that EPSS and CVSS are bad. All I'm saying is they alone are insufficient. And we've been talking a lot about true risk. As a matter of fact, in true risk, we are ingesting both CVSS and EPSS. But what EPSS really is talking about is, on their own website, EPSS says that you cannot really use EPSS you cannot treat it as a complete picture of risk. If you have other available data that shows that there is an active exploit that is going on, you should actually ignore EPSS. And that's why we've launched the true risk. We've been talking about it all day. We're going to continue to talk about it later in the day as well. What we do here is we are able to accurately measure cyber risk for you. We are able to quantify cyber risk for you, for your assets, for your groups of assets, for your business units, or for your geographical locations. We are able to prioritize real risk, not just by the likelihood of exploitation, but also by evidence of that exploitation in the real world. And also look at your enterprise business context, the 4 E's, to accurately measure what that risk is for you. And how are we doing that? We are not just looking at likelihood of exploitation and EPSS scores, but we are also using 25+ threat feeds, and we are ingesting all of that every day. And contextualizing a lot of that, we have our own threat research center as well, where around 120 threat researchers are also providing a lot of that data. And we are deduplicating it, we are normalizing it, we are contextualizing it to create a score, a unique score for your vulnerabilities and for your assets, which we call as true risk. So as you can see here, CVSS, the problem is too many, so it's the problem of false positives. EPSS, the problem is too few, so it's the problem of false negatives. What you really need is that Goldilocks, that perfect score, and that is what true risk is. I'll give you an example of this one. This is a vulnerability which is medium to high, according to CVSS, 6.9. EPSS says that there is a 97% likelihood that this will get exploited in the next 30 days. This is a 2014 vulnerability on Microsoft. There is no evidence of any exploit happening. There is no known exploit available. Yet, EPSS is saying there's 97% of exploit in the next 30 days. And we don't know why. There's no transparency to know why this is exploitable. So are you going to prioritize this one or something else? There are around 700 million or so. We analyzed all of that data. So there are around 700 million or so vulnerabilities like this, which are getting wrongly prioritized. And as a result, a lot of you are wasting your time. Now let's take the other side of this. So here is this vulnerability where CVSS is rating it as 3.9. So it's a low vulnerability. In fact, EPSS in this case is agreeing with CVSS. So it's giving a 0.1% likelihood that this vulnerability will get exploited, even though we have data to prove that there are 2 known threat actors that are actively exploiting this vulnerability in the past 30 days. And as a result, TrueRisk is rating this as critical with a score of 95. And we have around 90 million or so vulnerabilities which are in this category where CVSS and EPSS don't even prioritize these for you, but these are real vulnerabilities that are currently getting exploited and have a CISA KV available as well. So as Sumed was mentioning, there are really around 5,000 or so CVEs which are contributing to most of your risk. Around 80% of your risk is coming from these 5,000 vulnerabilities, and only TrueRisk is the only way that is able to measure this accurately. So measuring using TrueRisk is one part of measurement. The other thing is VMDR is not just the fastest and the most accurate Six Sigma VM solution, but it's also going to give it the most coverage. And let me expand a little bit on that coverage. Today, we are announcing that software composition analysis is going to be free for all VMDR customers. So software composition analysis is basically for your third-party supply chain software. But what about your first-party software, right? The custom code that you've built for your organization. For that, we have the Qualys custom assessment and remediation, or CAR. And if you want to know more about this, if you've not heard about CAR, I would like to ask you to go and talk to your TAM, or you could visit one of the booths outside to know more about CAR for your first-party analysis and remediation. Now, the next step, the second most important step is to communicate that risk. And communication of that risk has to be very precise. You need to be able to identify who the persona is and communicate accordingly to that persona. If it's your CISO, if it's your C-level executive, that kind of communication is going to be different than if it is a developer or if it's a security practitioner that you need to communicate this to. Sometimes you would need to provide a full grander picture of your entire organization, which means that you would need to show the cloud assets, your web applications, your external assets, your internal assets, all in one dashboard. And the unified dashboard that VMDR has is a way to use and communicate it accordingly. If it's a technical team or if it's your IT team, however, you need to be even more precise. You need to be able to integrate in the tools of their choice and route these vulnerabilities. As Shailesh was mentioning, you should be able to tag these vulnerabilities and route them to that right team, to that right person automatically. And this is achieved using a combination of our CSAM product as well as the ServiceNow and the Jira plugins. And once you have assigned these, and these have been remediated, these should also get automatically closed. So this is the loop. And last but not the least, we also talked about this true risk report, where if you want to give the state of union report to your executives or to your board, along with your trends, along with how your overall VM program is doing, as well as giving prescriptive recommendation on what are the next things that you should be focused on, what are the next few things that you will have to work on so that you can improve your overall security posture. That's what True Risk Report is. Shailesh was talking about True Risk Report. It is currently in limited beta, but if you are interested, please contact your TAM and we can run this report for you. And we are hoping to have this available by end of the quarter for everyone else. The last thing and the most important thing is because you might be able to measure accurately and communicate precisely, but what good is it if you are not able to eliminate effectively? VMDR, as you all know, integrates seamlessly, beautifully with our patch management solution. Our patch management solution, is the only solution that you can use to patch any device, anywhere, directly from the same platform. So it could be your Windows device, it could be your Linux device, Mac devices, third-party applications, any of that. Even SCCM cannot do this for you, but patch management is able to do this for you. And then you're able to automate some of these low-hanging fruits or the high-risk but low-impact kind of vulnerabilities for you. For example, if you have to update your browser, or if you have to update that iTunes or your Adobe software, that's not going to break anything. And as a result, you can automate some of this. You can have some smart automations built up, where as soon as this vulnerability is flagged, it automatically goes and patches that. But if you're a large organization, there is one way of going and deploying these automatically or using one-click button to deploy these patches. But if you're a large organization, usually you would have a workflow. You would need an approval process, a change request process. So in that case, you can then use our ITSM integrations or the Jira integration that I talked about, where you can start creating that change request workflow automatically. And if approved, that's when this goes and schedules, remediates that vulnerability, patches it, and comes back and closes that out. The other way of also remediating is by identifying attack paths and eliminating all of the those kill chains that this attack path provides you using the MITRE ATT&CK prioritization that we've recently released. Let's actually talk a little bit about the MITRE ATT&CK matrix prioritization. This actually gives you an attacker-centric view so that you can implement a threat-informed defense for your organization. We are the only provider that is not doing this reactively, but we are actually combining both reactive as well as proactive contexts to be able to provide you not just vulnerabilities, We are also providing you misconfigurations from policy compliance. And we are providing you EDR incidents. And we are also basically adding all of that asset context from CSAM and ESM. All of this, one single view, one single pane of glass, one context, one attack context, as a result of which you are able to prioritize which are those techniques and tactics that you're able to go and kill. As a result, you break that kill chain. And last but not the least, this also integrates beautifully with the patch management solution. And when we do the demo, you'll be able to see how easily we are able to identify these attack paths, and we are able to instantly remediate them. So without much time, let's have Kevin. Himanshu?
Yeah, Himanshu's going to come do the capstone. We're going to do the VMDR one at the pods.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so
Himanshu.
to see this stuff, go to the demo pods outside. In the meantime, Himanshu's going to cover something new and exciting as well. Thank you. Sandeep, thank you very much.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. As the threat landscape has changed and the ransomware impacts grows for large organizations, it is imperative for the companies to get a complete view of their entire attack landscape. As Sumedh announced, this has been one of the major challenges, and ESG studies shows that more than 67% of the assets which are known to you are only managed, and the rest of the assets are unmanaged. And we are very happy to announce that the same cloud agent, which we have been using for vulnerability management, policy compliance, FIM, EDR, can be used for passive sensing as well. Today, we'll show you a live demo of this. This is already enabled for more than 400 customers, and on average, they are able to identify 30% more assets in the environment, which they were not aware of. How many of you are using agents or have agents deployed in your environments? That's a huge percentage, okay. One second. No, that's fine. No, this is how it is. All right, so this agent which you have already deployed in your environment, you can enable passive sensing on it in a single click. You do not need to worry about how many tabs you need to deploy. You do not need to go to your network administrator to find the network topology, etc. CAP sensor has inbuilt intelligence where we will identify one of the agents in the same subnet to act as a CAPS leader that will start doing the passive sensing and will start showing every single device which is communicating in your network. So on average, based on the data from 400 customers till now, we see that they are able to identify more than 30% of the devices which they were not aware of. These devices could be IT-owned assets like Windows or Mac devices. These devices could be medical devices. These devices could be IoT devices. The possibilities are endless. And once you enable the agent in a single click, within the next few minutes, CAPS will start sending the data, and you will be able to see all of your unknown assets in a single pane of window. We'll provide off-the-box dashboards where you will be able to see total unmanaged assets which have been identified in the last 7 days, 24 hours, and even 5 days as well. We have set up a live demo just outside where you can connect to the QDemo SSID, and you can actually see that your assets will be shown on the Qualys subscription in the next 1 minute. This will be the same power which will provide you to your subscription as well. And once you enable CAPS across all of your subsidiaries, you will be able to see unidentified assets across all of them. We do provide rich asset metadata as well, which includes hardware categories, whether the machine is whether it's a virtual machine, whether it's a computer, whether it's a mobile device, or any other kind of device as well. And we also provide manufacturer breakdown as well, whether it's a Cisco device, it's an Apple device, it's a Windows device, and so on. We'll also be able to show you the Windows, we'll also be able to show the operating system as well. We'll categorize it by Windows, and not just at a high level. We'll be able to show whether it's a Windows 7 asset, it's a Windows 2012, and same for Mac OS X and Ubuntu as well. Now quickly, let's talk about some of the use cases which our customers are using. So once you enable CAPS, CAPS will identify all the assets, whether be it managed or unmanaged. So if on some of your assets you have already installed agents or are running remote scans on it, those assets will come under the managed category. And for those assets, we'll start showing both the sources. One is your primary sensor source, which is agent or scanner, and caps as well. And for the major category of assets in which you are more interested, we'll show them under the unmanaged category, and here you can solve multiple use cases. The most common use case which our customers are using is to identify corporate-owned devices which should have been managed but are currently unmanaged. This includes your Windows or Mac operating systems, and here you can also see the rich metadata which this cap sensor is able to collect. Now, on average, more than 43% of the organizations spend 80+ hours trying to manage these devices. But in Qualys, you will be able to do it in a single click. If it's a device on which agent can be installed, you can simply go to the device, go to agent summary, and you will be able to install agent in a single click from here. You will also be able to identify devices such as VoIP phones, such as printers, which can act as DDoS entry points in your environment. They can also lead to breaches where someone might hack your VoIP phones and transmit those conversations to other countries. Similar thing can be done for printers as well, where someone can get access to the unauthorized data which you are printing in your offices. And for these devices, since agent cannot be installed, again, these devices can be managed in a single click by enabling either vulnerability management module or policy compliance module or CertView module from your subscription. All of this workflow is pretty seamless. You only need to enable caps on it, and in a single click, you will be able to start managing these devices as well. We also provide other categories where, for example, you have a boardroom, and on those boardrooms only Windows devices are allowed. But if you get a Linux device on it, or if you see that someone is using mobile on those devices, you can set up alerts based on it. So we have QQLs for this, based on which you can identify the source, and then you can identify the operating system category. And it is very easy to set up alerts as well. We do recommend that you set up alerts for your most crown jewel assets or for most sensitive environments, and don't do it for all of your environment, because we do believe that every single one of you would be able to identify a lot more assets than you are actually aware of. Setting up the alerts is also pretty easy. You can just go to New Rules, Rule Manager, set up the alert, and Qualys will start sending you the alert based on your environments if we identify any unmanaged asset. Last but not the least, we also identify some funny devices. When we started using caps in the London office, someone was carrying a smart toothbrush with him. We were still wondering why someone would carry a toothbrush in the corporate jungle and in his office. Based on these use cases, we strongly recommend that whoever has agent installed in your environment, they should activate caps. It's free. You do not have to pay anything for it. A live demo is also set up in the demo booth 1. If you want your device to be connected, the SSID is QDemo. We'll be able to show you the true power of caps in less than a minute once you connect to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Manchu.